Welcome to the Past in Pictures channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. Veteran Jacob Miller shows a deep mark on his forehead, caused by an injury he received in service decades earlier. Photographed in 1899, the image documents the physical consequences of 19th century conflicts and stands as a record of military medicine and human survival. Crowds packed Times Square in New York City to celebrate the arrival of 1938 under bright signs and showers of confetti. The tradition brought together thousands of people at one of the most famous intersections in the world, reaffirming the cultural pull of major American cities. The use of the kangwei in China in 1873 shows a traditional form of public punishment meant to shame the person and restrict their movement. The wooden frame carried inscriptions describing the alleged offense, letting the public see the nature of the act during the display. An Austrian soldier returns home to Vienna around 1945, carrying the physical and emotional marks of the end of a period of major destruction. Seen from behind on crutches with his belongings, he symbolizes the challenges of personal and national rebuilding in a Europe shaped by the war's aftermath. A woman feeds a shoebill inside a home bathroom to protect the bird during the advance of Soviet forces in 1945. The unusual scene reflects the urgent efforts of Berlin residents to save animals from the local zoo amid the final collapse of the German government. Wearing a helmet and a heavy pack, a young enlisted soldier waits on the beach during the United States Marine landing at Da Nang in 1965. The image captures the start of direct involvement by United States combat troops in the Vietnam War, marking a decisive escalation in Southeast Asian geopolitics. Sophia Loren waits in focus between takes on a film set, representing the peak of European cinema that won over Hollywood in the 1950s and 1960s. Cameras and crew in the background point to the demanding routine of big productions that turned her into a global screen icon. A protester holds up a piece of underwear as a sign of protest during a public demonstration in San Francisco in 1969. The gesture symbolizes rejection of social rules and dress standards imposed on women, marking a time of intense political energy and changing customs during the second wave of feminism. An Austrian boy shows deep joy as he receives a new pair of shoes during World War II. Captured at the Ammersee orphanage, the image reflects the impact of humanitarian efforts during wartime shortages, offering a rare glimpse of relief and hope for affected children. Whitechapel streets in 1902 reveal the harsh everyday life of London's East End after the Victorian era. Women and children fill dark brick sidewalks in a neighborhood shaped by dense city living and the memory of grim events. The severe architecture reflects the social reality at the turn of the century. A Welsh woman helps her husband bathe in a metal tub in 1931, showing the harsh living conditions in coal mining communities. The simple home interior and the soot on the worker's body reveal the exhausting routine of a class that supported Britain's industrial economy for decades. A young delivery boy poses in front of his horse-drawn cart in the 1920s. The image shows the reality of early work common in urban centers at the time, when children took on heavy delivery responsibilities. Reliance on horses for moving goods still dominated local commerce. An exhausted couple holds their trophies after winning a dance marathon in Atlantic City in the 1930s. The board behind them lists an astonishing 173 hours of competition, reflecting the endurance marathon era when participants sometimes slept standing up to avoid being disqualified. Acrobats balance dangerously on top of a skyscraper in Chicago in 1955, defying gravity for public entertainment. Performing at extreme heights without safety nets reflects the appetite for bold spectacles that shaped American city culture. Workers rest on steel beams hanging hundreds of feet above the ground during the construction of a bridge in 1950. The image shows the lack of modern safety gear and the exhausting routine faced by the workers who shaped 20th century urban infrastructure. A crowd filled the streets of New York City on August 14, 1945, to celebrate the end of the fighting in the Pacific. Between confetti and newspapers announcing the official end, many people showed a shared sense of relief after years of global crisis. The excitement in Times Square marked the close of an era of major challenges for the world. Paul Anderson uses heavy metal wheels as makeshift dumbbells during strength training, before winning Olympic gold in 1956. His dedication in rough conditions highlights the physical drive needed to dominate weightlifting in an era with limited training resources. Used heavily in the 19th century and early 20th century, punt guns were massive weapons used for commercial hunting of waterfowl. By the 1920s, their use faced strict limits because of environmental damage, leading to laws meant to protect wildlife. A young couple dances energetically in the center of Tiananmen Square during the 1989 demonstrations in Beijing. Among red flags and a crowd of students, the movement reflects a push for reform in a tense political climate, revealing everyday life and Chinese youth culture. Actor Charlie Chaplin draws a huge crowd on Wall Street in 1918 to promote the sale of war bonds. The event took place during the final push of World War I, using his massive popularity to raise vital funds to support United States troops and military logistics. Maryland's justice system kept outdated disciplinary practices inside Baltimore prison facilities into the first half of the 20th century. The use of the whipping post for physical punishment remained legal in the state until 1938, reflecting a late shift toward modern corrections. An ancient rock carving in France reveals details about artistic expression and how the human silhouette was seen in the Paleolithic period. About 25,000 years old, the simple continuous line highlights female forms, showing skilled low-relief techniques among nomadic peoples. A man shows the unusual stretchiness of his skin in the early 20th century, pointing to a rare condition that often made him a feature in sideshow acts. The photograph documents the era's medical and public interest in biological anomalies and traveling circus performances. Ronald Lee. Ermey faced legal trouble as a young man when a judge offered him the option to serve in the armed forces instead of serving a sentence. In the early 1960s, he joined the United States Marine Corps, starting a path that would reshape his civilian and military life. Drivers raced through a sandy turn on Daytona Beach during a 1954 race in Florida. Captured at high speed, the scene shows the rough early roots of American professional racing before the big oval tracks reshaped the sport across the country. During her honeymoon with Joe DiMaggio, Marilyn Monroe took time to visit military hospitals in Japan. In February 1954, she showed support for recovering service members returning from the Korean conflict, strengthening her public image through goodwill and charm. A bride walks through the ruins of her home in London to attend her wedding on November 4, 1940. Even with damage from air raids during World War II, the image captures civilian resilience and the effort to keep life normal amid the European conflict. Members of the Women's Machine Gun Patrol operate a motorcycle with a protective sidecar in 1918. The photo captures domestic mobilization in the United States during the Great War, reflecting women taking on operational roles as the period reshaped social expectations. Odd contests shaped everyday British life in the mid-1930s, when ankle competitions became popular at London leisure events. A police officer serves as the judge, inspecting the contestants behind a curtain to ensure total fairness in the decision. Japan in 1981 shows a shift in youth culture through the sukabin look. Young students in Tokyo mix traditional school uniforms with leather jackets and big hair, pushing back against strict social rules. The smoke and defiant posture signal the start of a new urban identity. Construction of the Golden Gate Bridge moved forward in the mid-1930s, challenging the strong ocean currents of San Francisco. The project, led by Joseph Strauss, used innovative civil engineering methods to raise the massive towers that would hold the suspended steel cables. Construction workers take their lunch break sitting on suspended steel cables during the building of the St. John's Bridge in Portland. Completed on June 13, 1931, the majestic Gothic-style suspension bridge became an Oregon landmark, reflecting the boldness and human effort of the era. The Davis Divan appeared in 1948 as a promise of streamlined design inspired by California aviation. With only 3 wheels and a convertible body, it aimed to change the car market with fuel savings and a futuristic look before running into serious financial trouble. A chaotic web of telephone wires dominates the city scene in Pratt, Kansas in 1911. The photo shows the fast, messy technological growth of the early 20th century, when overhead communication lines had little visual regulation and radically changed the look of American towns. The St. John's Park Terminal in Manhattan beat as the logistical heart of the New York Central in the early 20th century. Freight cars passed through massive brick arches at the corner of Hudson and Layite Streets, linking the river to city commerce. This steady flow of goods set the industrial pace of the area. May-worn Paris facades reveal daily life in the Saint-André-des-Arts neighborhood between 1865 and 1868 through the lens of Charles Marville. Ads for Russian baths and mechanical furniture cover old buildings while carriages sit on the stone pavement. The dense architecture holds traces of the city's commercial life. In 1924, an officer proudly poses with his Indian motorcycle on the streets of Washington, District of Columbia. His detailed uniform and the bike's rugged design symbolize authority and technological progress in the nation's capital. In the background, imposing classical architecture adds to the formal mood of the service. Wilbur Wright watches his glider after a landing on the sands of Kitty Hawk during tests in 1901. These key experiments in North Carolina allowed the study of lift and flight control, paving the way for the success of powered aviation years later. John F. Kennedy gives a speech from a chair to miners and their families during the 1960 presidential campaign in West Virginia. The charismatic senator sought support in economically struggling areas, using direct communication to strengthen his path to the White House. John Kennedy shares a relaxed moment with his daughter Carolyn in 1962, in a rare scene of family life inside the White House. The girl wears a mask that makes a playful caricature of her own father, showing the marketing craze and huge popularity that surrounded the president and his family in the media at the time. John F. Kennedy Jr. sits in the pilot seat of Marine One around 1963, showing how close the presidential family was to United States military equipment. The Sikorsky helicopter's analog dashboard reflects Cold War-era aviation technology and the day-to-day routine of the White House in Washington. Physicist Albert Einstein sticks out his tongue in a playful moment as he leaves his 72nd birthday celebration on March 14, 1951. Captured by photographer Arthur Sasse, the image became one of the most iconic moments in popular culture, humanizing the scientific genius and later reaching high prices at auctions. Young Albert Einstein poses for a portrait in Munich in 1884 when he was only 5 years old. This colorized image reveals the childhood of one of the brightest minds in modern science, long before his theories reshaped physics and permanently changed how we understand the universe. Holding his cat Asha with an intense gaze, Yuri Knorozov embodies the intellectual dedication that enabled the decoding of Maya glyphs. Working in Leningrad, he transformed linguistics by identifying the syllabic nature of the ancient script, linking Central America's past to modern scholarship by 1980. Behind the scenes in 1973, David Bowie carefully gets ready in front of a mirror to become the iconic Ziggy Stardust. The detailed makeup is applied in a plain room with exposed brick, highlighting the contrast between a simple dressing area and a larger-than-life persona. British star Elton John embodies peak rock glamour during a trip in 1974. Aboard the legendary Starship airplane, he enjoys a private bar with a piano, blending luxury and convenience to keep creativity alive between tour stops. Sitting on his bed with his cats, Freddie Mercury enjoys a quiet at-home moment in the 1980s. The image offers a rare look at the private life of the lead singer of Queen, contrasting the scale of his stage performances with the simplicity and warmth of his personal routine. Michael Jackson's visit to Disneyland on February 18, 1987, celebrated a creative partnership between the singer and Disney during the release of themed productions. He showed strong admiration for Walt Disney's playful world, blending pop culture with family entertainment. Cartoonist Bill Watterson appears in his studio in 1986 when he was cementing the worldwide success of Calvin and Hobbes. Known for being private, he worked carefully on every panel and defended the artistic integrity of newspaper comic strips. A llama curiously watches the bustle of Times Square in 1957, peeking out from a taxi window. In the background, the Schubert Theater advertises the show Bells Are Ringing, shaping the scene of lively New York City. Inga Morath's photograph highlights the surreal side of everyday life in the metropolis. A family walks with elegance through Chicago streets in the 1940s on the way to Sunday religious services. The group reflects the dignity and sharp style of the African American community at the time, with well-tailored coats and classic hats that shaped social life and cultural identity. Pedestrians cross St. Patrick's Bridge in Cork around 1900, showing Edwardian elegance in Ireland. In the background, the Camden Hotel and businesses like the Standard House complete the city scene. The movement of carts and walkers illustrates the lively daily rhythm of the time. Well-dressed pedestrians in 1915 enjoy a quiet moment of outdoor leisure. As a woman crouches to feed pigeons, men in bowler hats and women with refined accessories watch the scene. This calm city routine reflects Belle Époque customs. A Victorian couple shares a quiet at-home leisure moment in England during the 1890s. Seated in a room with ornate wallpaper and many framed pieces, both work on knitting. The scene reflects intimacy and the social habits of Britain's middle class at the end of the century. A mother poses with her 5 children in a photo studio in 1900. The stiff clothing and decorated collars reflect social norms at the turn of the century. Back then, family portraits were formal occasions meant to record lineage and the growing prosperity of families. Cincinnati's traveling public library service came to life in 1927 through this modified vehicle that brought books to rural and remote areas. The project expanded access to reading by letting people choose titles directly from the truck's outside shelves. Workers operate the assembly line at the Ford Motor Company in 1903, a period that marked the start of an unprecedented industrial revolution in the auto industry. These methods enabled large-scale vehicle production, changing daily life and transportation around the world. The McDonald brothers pose in front of their new business in San Bernardino, California, in November 1948. The sign announces the opening of a hamburger drive-in built around a fast service system, an innovative concept that would permanently transform the food industry and global consumer habits. A used car dealer in Lancaster, Ohio, offered models priced between $29 and $189 in 1938. The local business displayed banners advertising partner plans to make buying cars easier during the slow economic recovery after the Great Depression. Atlantic City's boardwalk buzzed under the sun in 1908, showing how popular the New Jersey shore had become as a leisure escape. With wool swimwear and elegant parasols, the crowd filled the sand during a major boom in seaside tourism, cementing the area as a cultural icon. Actress Grace Bradley poses on a high-wheel bicycle at Paramount Studios in Los Angeles in 1933. The photo highlights the promotional style of Hollywood's golden age, using old-fashioned props and swimwear to create memorable images that fueled movie magazines and the public imagination. Doris Day enjoys a moment of rest in the sun in 1955, alongside her husband on a quiet beach. The scene captures the laid-back side of one of Hollywood's biggest golden age stars, reflecting 1950s celebrity life and the swimsuit fashion of the decade. Italian star Sophia Loren is surrounded by photographers and flashing cameras at a packed press conference in 1955. The image captures the peak of the European studio system, when actresses' public personas were carefully shaped under constant media attention and major global events. The meeting between Brigitte Bardot and Pablo Picasso in 1956 symbolizes the overlap of modern art and European cinema at the time. In the artist's studio, their interaction shows a conversation between different generations of creativity, happening during the prestigious Cannes Film Festival at the height of France's cultural energy. Mata Hari poses in her exotic outfits in 1906, cementing her image as a stage performer in Paris before the global conflict. The composition reflects the Orientalist style that fascinated Europe's elite before she became one of the most mysterious figures in world espionage. Muhammad Ali's charisma shines in the ring as he pretends to lose to a young admirer in London. Recorded on May 16, 1963, the moment highlights his magnetic personality outside official matches. Gestures like this helped build his public image as an approachable icon. The legendary Muhammad Ali is seen surrounded by admirers in the mid-1960s, a time when his charisma went beyond sports. He was already emerging as a global cultural figure, using his fame to influence conversations about rights and identity worldwide. Boxer Muhammad Ali poses in front of a bank vault packed with cash after one of his most famous wins in 1974. The $1 million amount reflects the financial peak of the decade and the growing value of the sport, cementing his image as an icon not only in the ring but also in commercial success. Polish officer Kazimierz Szosland clears a precise jump during an equestrian competition in 1933, showing the technical discipline of his country's cavalry at the time. In a sharp military uniform, he represents the top tier of international riding that often dominated European podiums between the wars. Beauty technology in the 1940s offered unusual skincare ideas, like the heated face mask. The device had internal electric heating elements to warm the face, meant to boost circulation and make it easier to apply cosmetics during harsh winter weather. A Japanese couple records their own image through a mirror using a bellows camera on a tripod in 1926. This early self-portrait shows technical skill and an interest in documentary photography in early 20th century Japan, blending tradition and modern life in a home setting. Ruth Disney appears in 1906 beside her older brother in front of a wooden home. This shared childhood in the American Midwest helped shape family memories that, decades later, influenced the creation of a global entertainment empire built around nostalgia and childhood imagination. Danny Trejo and Antonio Banderas posed together behind the scenes of the film Desperado in 1995. Directed by Robert Rodriguez, the production became a landmark in modern action cinema and helped define a neo-Western style. This on-set moment reflects the cast chemistry that drove the movie's success. A rare sculpture from ancient Greece shows a sarcophagus dedicated to an elderly pet dog resting on a stone bed. The animal wears a collar decorated with jewel inlays, and its head turned to the side suggests an eternal gaze toward travelers on an old road. Sandra Bullock and Adam Sandler posed together in 1994, a year when both were building strong careers in the Hollywood film industry. The photo captures 1990s fashion with sheer fabric, lace, and a casual cap. The red ribbon on the actor's pocket represents health awareness at the time. Indian soldiers march with turbans and raised swords as they arrive in France in 1914 during World War I. A French woman steps forward to offer flowers in a welcoming gesture, illustrating the mobilization of colonial troops who played a crucial role in the European conflict. Princess Diana and actor Clint Eastwood danced during a White House gala dinner on November 9th, 1985. Hosted by the Reagan family, the event brought together celebrities and officials in Washington, symbolizing cultural diplomacy between the United Kingdom and the United States. Lucette Desmoulins posed for this photograph in 1920, showing the flapper style that reshaped women's fashion after the war. Her short haircut and checkered dress capture the Paris look of the time, while the mirror in the background hints at the elegance of the fashion houses that thrived during the decade. In 1959, Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward browsed the traditional bookstalls in Paris. The Hollywood couple enjoys an everyday moment in the French capital, surrounded by the cultural feel of street booksellers. The scene captures their casual elegance and intellectual curiosity. Sitting at her desk in her Meerwedeplein apartment in Amsterdam, Anne Frank writes in 1941, "This everyday school life comes before the forced hiding that would turn her notes into one of the most widely read testimonies in world history." Her writing captured daily routine under the German government occupation in the Netherlands. Two women use wooden treadmills in the 1920s, pointing to the early rise of modern fitness culture indoors. In those years, exercise technology was still basic and mechanical, reflecting a society beginning to value structured physical activity to maintain health. A couple uses the iconic front door of a BMW Isetta to shield themselves from the rain in the 1950s. This microcar became a symbol of post-war European rebuilding, offering an affordable and efficient mobility option during a time marked by shortages of resources and fuel. A fabric merchant poses in his shop in Samarkand during the 1910s in Uzbekistan. Colorized by Sergey Prokudin-Gorsky, the photograph reveals the richness of Central Asian textile patterns, documenting trade routes and the region's visual culture before Soviet-era changes. Suma Lamont shows her juggling skill in 1973 in California, balancing spheres with precision in a performance that blends art and entertainment. The image captures a 1970s look, placing the performer in a home setting that reflects the visual culture and outfits of the time.